Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox, and I'm the host of the New America Movement. Thank you so much for tuning in our show today. I have my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, say hello.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing this evening?
Well, we got a great show today because we have a special guest. You want to introduce him?
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's my honor to introduce the Thomas Beach. What's going on, man?
Good to see you. Very well.
Well, that's awesome, dude. So it's good to have you on the show. So tell us a little about, just a little bit about yourself, and because you're running for, you're the incumbent running for House District 10, right?
That's correct. Current the state representative, House District 10, which covers parts of Greenville County, Anderson County, Pickens County. A little bit about myself. I'm an Army veteran, born-again Christian, family man of 17 years, a local upstate realtor. And I'm also a member of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus, which is a collection of the 17 most conservative lawmakers, and obviously a Republican. And I think what makes me the conservative option, because I am running for re-election, and I wanted to pose the question to voters as they consider who to vote for. As the conservative option, I had to make a list here. But for my time in office, I'm personally responsible for strengthening and saving constitutional carry in South Carolina. We can get into a little bit about that later. I've been fighting pornography and CRT in our school libraries. I fought on the spear point of fighting the Health Czar bill here in South Carolina. I'm leading the charge on the illegal immigration invasion here in South Carolina. Voted in to put age verification on porn sites to protect our kids. Passed a bill here recently that would ban doctor-assisted medical procedures on children. I also developed a bill that would ban children participating in lewd and explicit drag queen shows, and then also try to defund Planned Parenthood and CPAC, which is one of the nation's largest conservative organizations. They score legislators across the nation, and they've given me 100% conservative score card on that. And so I am the conservative in this race.
Well, awesome. Let me ask you this question. Why would you want another term, and why would you think the people in Greenville and Anderson should give you that opportunity?
Well, as a representative, I represent their values, and the citizens have expectations. And if we take a step back before I came to office, let's look at South Carolina. We have the highest tax rates, income tax rates in the Southeast. Our income tax rates is higher than Massachusetts and Rhode Island, blue states. We couldn't get pro-life legislation. South Carolina was a destination state for abortions. We didn't have constitutional carry. The list goes on. And the voters have expectations, and I am able to represent those expectations and meet those expectations.
No, and that is what we ask for in elected officials. Do what you say you're gonna do. So I'm glad that you are running for re-election again. I'm not afraid to say it. This ain't like a New America thing. This is just me. You would definitely have my vote, especially when it comes to who's running beside you and stuff. So, but anyway, what would be I guess when you talk about illegal immigration and stuff in South Carolina, what would be your, I guess, one of if there is a solution that could be had here, what would that be, and what would that look like? Is there any talks about that, or what's going on with that?
Well, there is a conversation to be had on many policies, including illegal immigration, where there seems to be a void in leadership down in Columbia. And there has been a void of conservative leadership in Columbia. Enter the Freedom Caucus. And when we make noise about various pieces of legislation, it it brings the spotlight to that, and we're starting to see a trend where we are starting to see now more conservative legislation. For example, on the illegal immigration issue, I am drafting a bill. It should be filed this next week. On it's called the federal program has what's called SAVE, and I don't have the name of the SAVE, what it means, but basically when you get arrested, you have to, when you're getting booked, you have to get your fingerprints and all that good stuff when you get arrested. And so I'm mandating that law enforcement start checking your immigration status once you get picked up. And so that way we can see, are you here legally? And if you are, we can retain you and ask the federal government to come in.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What is the process now? Because generally, if a cop pulls you over and you're an illegal alien, does he take you to jail? Does he send you to ISIS? What's the process in South Carolina?
So they are under there's no requirement for local law enforcement to check the immigration status of anybody. You start getting into discrimination laws and whatnot. So with my piece of legislation, we make it the law that you're just going to be checked to see what your immigration status is, and it's very simple. I've talked to law enforcement. There's a database. We run it right through their database. It's easier than getting fingerprints, and then that way we will see who's here illegally or not.
Okay, so just say they find somebody that is illegal. What are they going to do with them?
Well, at least we'll have documentation, and that's the big thing is we need to know where our the criminals are. They're really bad apples. But if we see that somebody's breaking, that would open up the door of do we retain them? Do we call ICE? And at least we'll know who's here and who's not supposed to be here. And we'll start there.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, let me ask you this. You're running against an incumbent, or you're running against another candidate who's trying to get your seat. Tell us her name and something about that person.
Well, her name is Pam Anthony. She's from Powdersville area. And since I am the conservative candidate, and I've listed some of the things that I've been fighting for, the only thing that and she's a bit of an unknown, but what we can tell is that when it comes to pro-life legislation, she would be to the left of me. We have Ashley Trantham, Representative Ashley Trantham, who spoke to Pam and asked her about her position on pro-life. And she is of the mindset that government does not need to be part of the decision, and that a woman and a doctor can abort the child at any time up to pregnancy. And so we have that quote from Ashley. And now that she is filed, from my hearing is that she's kind of walked that back a little bit. But we also know that she's getting a lot of support from special interests and lobbyists. I was at a dinner the other night with some donors, and it was a table full of us, and two of my guests got phone calls from live caller push polls, and they were 30 minutes apiece. But these are live people asking questions, and they were designed for Pam Anthony, but they were not paid by Pam Anthony. And so later that evening, I was talking to the other members of the Freedom Caucus, and everybody else, the 17 of us, also received live push poll callers. So there's Pam Anthony is getting a lot of support from the moderates, from special interests, from the lobbyists, and I think the voters at the end of the day will have to make a decision. Do you want a representative who will not sign the loyalty pledge, or do you want a representative that's going to go along and get along, join the good old boy system, and just be a rubber stamp for House leadership?
Okay, so what kind of tension is there in Columbia against the Freedom Caucus? Because you brought that up several times, and it appears what you're trying to say is that this lady may have some support from the moderates in Columbia. Is that true? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's correct. It's in 2023 when we went to war, and when I say went to war, let me go back. For people who are not familiar with what happened, the loyalty oath, what it is, it's a rule package. When I got elected, I went down for orientation, and all the Republicans were asked to sign a piece of paper. And one of the rules said, in effect, don't embarrass another fellow lawmaker. And when we started asking questions about this rule, the answers were unsatisfactory. At one point, they said, don't take pictures of the vote board and post it on social media because another Republican might vote differently and you would put them in hot water with their constituents. And I felt that there was
Isn't that the point, though?
Well, yeah.
I mean, am I missing something?
Well, if you go to the state website to look up how people voted, it is not user-friendly. So I think that might have been done by purpose, but it's hard to see how people vote. It's very complicated. And so for us to take a picture of the vote board and post on social media, it's a shortcut for everybody to see what's going on. And so when we're talking about bills like the health czar bill or the hate crimes bill or creating a monopoly on horse gambling, paying money for gummy bear statues, these votes are important. And the constituents want to know about that. They should. And so I felt that this rule was an obstruction to my duty to my God and to the citizen. And so I refused to sign it. And a number of us did not sign it. Once and that was during orientation. So on the first day of being a legislator, once I got sworn in, I went to the Republican luncheon, and chairman of the Republican Caucus, Representative Davey Hyatt, he was at the doorway, and he put his hand on my shoulder, stopping me, preventing me from entering. And he said, "Mr. Beach, did you sign that paper?" I said, "No, sir, and I'm not going to." "Well, you're not welcome." And so the people who did not sign it were kicked out of the Republican Caucus. Now, a caucus, for people who don't know, is a collection of lawmakers that have a shared interest or trait. So you have the Women's Caucus, the Black Caucus, the Republican Caucus. To be a member of the Republican Caucus, you have to be a Republican and a lawmaker. And so while these Republicans went in and had a very nice, fancy dinner, I had to go find somewhere to eat.
Now, and you were obviously you are a Republican,
yes.
And at the time you were a lawmaker.
Yeah, well, I'm both still.
Right.
I still can do anything and everything a lawmaker can do as a legislator. I'm still a representative. I'm still a Republican. I just cannot be allowed. They won't allow me behind the closed door.
Just because you didn't sign the paper.
That's right. Yeah. And so once, the first couple weeks of that was really stressful because I've never had a public office. I'm just a guy from Piedmont, a father and a family man. And so I'm not allowed behind closed doors with these gentlemen who are now shaping the agenda. What are we going to vote on? What bills are we going to focus on? Not part of that conversation. And so I struggled. I was sick. I really love being a Republican. I'm still a Republican. But what I discovered, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made because I got to represent the people. I got to vote on what my folks expect me to vote on. And I sleep like a baby at night. And when I come home from Columbia, I commute 4 hours a day. I take my kids to school in the morning, and then I drive down to Columbia to do legislative work. And then I make it in the evening to help with homework, put food in their belly, put them to bed. And my kids are young. They're in middle school and elementary school. And I drive those 4 hours, and my teeth are rattling the whole entire drive because I know how bad the roads are. And a lot of legislators, they have homes in Columbia. But I'm here. I see the buses dropping off the illegal aliens. I see my kids are in school. I see the porn and the CRT being pushed onto our children. And so I'm in the trenches with our families. And I don't feel that there's been adequate representation before me that would represent our freedoms, our rights, our values. And no one's defending our pocketbooks. And it makes me sick and tired when we spend money on orangutan enclosures, art classes for adults, Zumba classes, shared cooking recipe campaigns, BMX bike trails. The list goes on. Gummy bear statues, really? And I'm trying to, guys, let's move, let's have our priorities, let's shift that money from those things, and let's focus on foster care parenting. They need compensation. We have teenagers who don't have parents or guardians. We have medical fragile children. Let's compensate these families that are so we can be magnets so that they those kids can get protection. Let's shift money to the roads and bridges, because if you ask any citizen, they really would like that fixed.
Absolutely.
And so what happens is when you go down to Colombia and you start to fight, you get a target on your back, and they come after you pretty hard, because they, like I said, once before, that special interests and lobbyists have spent $1 million telling my voters that I'm anti-jobs and anti-teacher, and I hate the Second Amendment, and so my opponent will have to make that decision, which if you have her down, explain, are you going to join the good boy system? Because if you are, you're going to have to sign that piece of paper.
Absolutely. And so I want to talk about your opponent real fast. So you said that your opponent, and her name's what now again?
Pam Anthony.
Pam Anthony.
Yeah.
And Pam Anthony, you're saying is, I'm guessing, pro-abortion? Like she's for abortion, or she's not pro-life?
Well, I had to find the quote from Ashley Trantham, but what Ashley told me, and this is a quote from Ashley Trantham, the author of the Save Women's Sports law, and when she talked to Pam and asked her position on the pro-life issue, Anthony said that that's a decision between a mother and a doctor, and that termination can go all the way up to birth. Yeah.
So this lady doesn't have a political footprint yet.
No. I from my understanding, she's not hold any public office, and I think what's going on is that Republicans come in all shapes and size. Sorry, I am the conservative, and so she's presenting I'm sure she's a sweet person.
Yeah.
My opponent in the previous election, who I challenged and won, he was a gentleman. His name was Wes Cox. But when we come to policy, he's a liberal and I'm the conservative. And in this election, we have just another liberal and I'm a conservative. And so it goes on to the State House. There are Republicans who are more to the left, and I'm the conservative lawmaker. And so...
Yeah, and we're seeing more of that, of these, like you said, Republicans that lean more to the left. We're seeing a lot more of that now than I think we've ever seen in my lifetime. Like I've seen Republicans say, I'm a hardcore Republican and I don't like Donald Trump. I'm a hardcore Republican and I like abortion. I think it's a woman's right. I'm a Republican, but they got all these buts. But and so to me, it's like, well, good Lord, man, you sacrificed some values and morals real quick, didn't you?
Well, let me ask you this question. What kind of support are you getting in Pickens County, and who's supporting you?
Families on fixed incomes. Whenever I get emailed and calls every day about various issues, and I can show you my phone. All my emails are answered, and phone calls are I pick up and I talk to folks. And so in the 3 counties that I represent, I have to say politically, office holders. Senator Cash has graciously donated to my campaigns. Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis has endorsed my reelection because him and I have been working together on the illegal immigration invasion from the southern border. But my employers, I would have to say the people who pay taxes, the families that have certain expectations, I have met them, and that's who's supporting me.
But do you have the ability to dip into the pool to get money like other House Republicans have been doing?
No, because when you go to Columbia and you fight and you rock the boat, the problem is that the special interest and lobbyists wanted you to do something, and when you don't do that, then the spigot of that money is turned off. And so if you compare the conservatives, like myself and other conservative lawmakers, we have nowhere near the other Republican lawmakers' bank accounts. So matter of fact, I wish I had a flyer to bring you. Before I had, a glossed colored door hanger, but because I don't have enough money, I just printed off a black and white piece of paper, and it looks cheap, but hey, that's what I can afford. But I'm on the right side of the issues, and I am meeting the expectations of whatever voters are. And so, yeah, it's a dogfight. This election will be a dogfight because I'm not well funded, but I believe I have an amazing voting record, being a staunch conservative, and so that's the challenge I have to face there.
Are you getting support from Greenville County and Anderson?
Well, like I said,
and let me say this: how much of your district bleeds over into Anderson and Greenville? Because I know it's sort of gerrymandered, kind of an odd. It's not really fully Pickens. Am I right or wrong, or you straighten me out?
The lion's share of my district is in Anderson County, and I live in Piedmont. So I like to say that Anderson County is probably the lion's share, and Pickens and Greenville, maybe, I don't know, maybe a dozen or 24 precincts in those areas.
Okay, interesting. So do you get support from those people, or is it just basically Pickens County?
I get support in all three counties, with all the voters, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so what about the conservative leadership in Pickens County and Greenville? Are they supporting you?
Conservative leadership, yes. Well, I don't know about the conservative leaders in Greenville. I mean, there's various organizations. There's a split in the in the GOP. You have the My SC GOP, which are very hostile to the only conservatives in the State House.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, my voters called me up and said, I got this email from My SC GOP, and I tried to unsubscribe from them. And then I find out I am unsubscribed from the Greenville GOP email list. And so somehow the two organizations have intertwined so much. And so a lot of voters, there's a lot of talk about, who's conservative, who's not. But if you, at the end of the day, you just look at the voting board and, there
you go.
Who's voted to defund Planned Parenthood, who's voted to strengthen constitutional carry. There's a pretty clear indicator who's the conservative. And so the various organizations, there's several organizations that I would say that they are supportive of me, and then there's maybe just the My SC GOP that's not very supportive of the Freedom Caucus.
So what? Okay, we've heard that before about the My SC GOP not being in support of the Freedom Caucus. Like, I guess my question is like, why would they feel the need to come after, I guess, you individually and the Freedom Caucus, like, because like you said, your voting record is staunch conservative, like you're 100% conservative, and that's what they preach they want, So it's like, what's going on with that?
Well, I would have to say that I can't explain why they do what they do.
Right.
And secondly, as a representative for my constituents in Greenville County, Pickens County, and Anderson County, they can, listen or participate. But at the end of the day, if they reach out to me, my voters, and say, "Hey, can you walk me through, this vote, like the Health Star bill?" I can explain why I did what I did. I want to make sure that I think a lot of folks, and this is going to be the cold hard truth, okay, for a lot of voters. I receive many county resolutions. I've received many county resolutions from various counties, not just my 3 counties, but from across the state. Like, for example, paper ballots. We have a resolution. Our county GOP wants paper resolutions. I have heard the party, and I will execute what they have so instructed. The cold hard truth is that the Republican lawmakers don't care what party resolutions are passed. And so what I see is a lot of people spinning their wheels on the county parties, but not holding the legislators accountable, because I think the open primary causes a problem where. So let's say you don't have a legislator that's doing what you expect, okay, and then you try to hold them accountable. Well, it's hard to hold them accountable when you have Democrats jumping into the race. It dilutes the conservative voice in there. And I think the way the power is set up in Columbia, the way the South Carolina Constitution is written, the legislative branch is the most powerful branch. We select our judges. Now, when we grew up and went to school for civics classes, we were taught there's 3 equal separate branches of government. Not in South Carolina. The state house has more power than the governor. The state house picks our judges. And so what happens is, as a consequence, you have the speaker, the 6 standing committees with the chairmen and their sub-chairmen, and then the majority leaders, who's a representative out of Pickens. There's the power. If you want legislation to pass, those are the people that you got to apply pressure, because if they don't want it, it ain't happening. And so what I would argue for county parties and or just average citizens is look at that chain of command and apply pressure there. And emails, I would have to say, are not so effective, because I know many legislators with tens of thousands of emails that are unread. Now, what happens? Don't discount it, because if somebody gets 1,000 emails talking about a certain issue, then they're like, oh, well, this must be a hot potato here. But what's really effective is handwriting a letter. And if a representative gets a handwritten letter, they're opening it up, and they will read that. Get some FaceTime, or get them on the phone. A lot of people complain, like, my representative or senator doesn't ever call me back. Well, go to his office, show up, and they'll hear you. So going back to the point of county parties, and I think the way the power is focused on the state house, the Speaker of the House, the Speaker pro temp, the chairman of the 6 standing committees, there's where your power is. And if you want something done, that's where you need to focus on. Now, since we know that, And we know currently there's 17 Freedom Caucus members, right? For us to have real conservative legislation is to increase the number of 17. Now, there are currently 88 Republicans in the state house, state representatives. And what you want to do is have the conservatives have the majority of the majority. Now, once that happens, we get to choose who the Speaker of the House is and who's the Republican chairman and who's the chairmen of the 6 standing committees. Currently, at this moment, there's around 35, not including the 17 Freedom Caucus members, but 35 Freedom Caucus candidates or Freedom Caucus adjacent candidates running, challenging Republican lawmakers across the state. So we feel, the Freedom Caucus feels, that if we were to get somewhere around 30 members in the Freedom Caucus, and with our allies, there's some really good Republicans who are not Freedom Caucus members. I'm thinking of Kathy Landing out of the Low Country, Roger Nutt, I think he's out of Spartanburg. Great conservatives, not members of the Freedom Caucus, but they're pretty good conservatives. And so if we can have 30 members of the Freedom Caucus with our allies, then it's spring cleaning at the State House. And then you're going to see a bunch of really good legislation come through that pushes the state to the right. I mentioned that we had high tax rates and there's a lot of crony capitalism going on, and we really want to stick to preventing our kids from getting harmed from drag queen shows, and so there's a lot of great legislation ready. We just need to have the leadership to make those things priority. I'm excited about June. I really am, because if I know that not all 35 are going to win, but some will, right. And even if half of that's why the State House is freaking out. That's why they are sending so much money to unseat me, because if they can keep us down, then then they will lose power if we take it, and that's what they're so scared of.
So you feel like they're financially supporting a candidate to work against you, to unseat you?
Oh yeah, and all the 17, all the Freedom Caucus members have a challenger. I have my challenger that's getting the support of the dark money, dark groups, special interest money, and I'm in for a real dogfight because, I have this great voting record that I mentioned, and it takes money because listen, at the end of the day, we parents, we families, we have priorities. We work 50 hours a week. We have dinner at 6. Who's making it? Who's cleaning the dishes? Kids got to go to the soccer practice or baseball. There's very little bandwidth for, what is our state representative doing? And, other people, people have priorities. And so for me to interrupt somebody's day, research shows that those mailers, direct mail pieces, have a 7-second lifespan, because when you get them, what happens? You look at the front, look at the back, and it goes in the garbage. But if I send enough mailers or whatever communications that says, I'm the person who personally strengthened constitutional carry in South Carolina, and you hear that enough, Second Amendment is important to me. Man, this guy.
So talk about that a little bit. So when you said that you strengthened the Second Amendment and stuff here, so tell us a little bit about that. How'd you do that?
Oh, you guys are going to love this story. So the House passes constitutional carry, sends it to the Senate. Now the Senate is going to have to look at it, and they have the power to make amendments, and they do. And they wreck constitutional carry. They put a language in there that gave me, a lawmaker, special exceptions, but not you all, not the citizen. I could do whatever I want with a weapon, and I can get my car and go drive home. but not for you guys. There was language in there like that. There was language in the bill that created different groups of gun owners. And so there was a lot of restrictions.
So you mean like they were talking about like just for like elected officials?
That's right. We had language in there that gave me special treatment.
Wow.
And I said, I am not going to sign anything or vote for anything that gave me special treatment and not the citizens I represent. This is America. We're all equal underneath the law, one way or another. So now, once the Senate puts all that garbage in there, the bill has to come back to the House because they made changes, and we have to vote to accept those changes or not accept those changes. All the Republicans, Thomas, be a team player. The bill said constitutional carry, but if you looked at it, it wasn't constitutional carry. I wanted to throw an amendment saying change the name to carry if you dare. It was not constitutional carry.
That's good.
If you think constitutional carry, we think, oh, wait, I don't need a permission slip by the government to carry a weapon.
Right.
That's what we think. But that bill doesn't do that.
Right.
And so 2 weeks, I'm being bullied, pressured. Be a team player. Don't rock the boat. We'll fix it down the road. I'm like, well, when do we ever fix anything around here?
Kicking it down the road.
The NRA pulled me in the room, pulled the 17 of us in a room, and said, if you vote against this Senate amendment, if you try to fix it, if you look at it wrong, we're going to give you negative scores. The NRA. Well, for them, they wanted a bill that had the title constitutional carry, but we wanted to strengthen that to actually have constitutional carry.
They just wanted the title of it.
That's right. Yeah. And
the
so
headlines.
Now, I told my consultant what the NRA just did. I said, they just threatened me. And he's like, Thomas, listen, you got an opponent, and then your opponent would love to have literature that says you're anti-Second Amendment from the NRA. They are going to put you over the barrel. Mm-hmm. Keep your head low. Just don't rock the boat. Just, fight another day. Just go along. And, I explained this to my wife. I was like, I'm in trouble. If I rock the boat and do something, the NRA is going to come after me and give me a low score. And that would help my opponent. And they got the money to rake me over the coals. And no voter is going to go and dig into the thing,
Especially if you're a gun owner and you hear something from the NRA, like me, I'm a gun owner, right? And I'm looking at a candidate, and then the NRA comes out and says, hey, this candidate is, against the Second Amendment or against constitutional carry. Even if, I'll look deeper into that. Is this really the truth? But a lot of people, just what they said to you, we just want the headline. And that's what a lot of people just read is that headline and that first paragraph, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're right, that could.
But I made a promise to my constituents. When I asked for their vote the first time, they asked me, how do we know you're not going to turn to jelly when you get down there? How do we know you're not going to join the good old boy system? And so the next day I listened to my wife and listened to my consultant and disagreed with them. And then I went and the next morning filed a clean constitutional carry amendment. So we're going to vote on what the Senate comes. I'm going to amend it. I'm going to strip off all the garbage they put in there, and we're going to vote on this clean bill. And when that day came, before that, there was a miracle that happened. A miracle. And I'm not kidding. Divine intervention. People were watching and paying attention from all across the state, and they started calling the representatives and senators and saying, this is garbage. If you want to be reelected, you put constitutional carry. The senators and representatives were like, oh my gosh, this is election year. We should probably kind of fix this. So, all right, let's go let's make an amendment. And when they went there, they're like, oh wait, Beach already has the amendment there. Now, he's a member of the Freedom Caucus. We can't give him any credit for fixing this. So the Republicans negotiated. Okay, so when you make an amendment, it's in order of which is submitted. All right, so a Democrat made amendment number 1, and I don't know what his amendment was. I had amendment 2, which was the clean constitutional carry bill. And then so the Republicans came in after all this time of, trying to tell me not to do anything. They switched the tune, and they would be number 3. But that wouldn't work for them because I would get the credit. So they cut a deal with the Democrat who had amendment number 1. And I don't know what they arranged, but I remember on the day of the vote, behind me through the glass doors, you could see all the floodlights, microphones, journalists. It was a big deal. The whole lobby was full of cameras. And this is the day the constitutional carry was going to pass. And I had the golden ticket because I stood my ground. And then the speaker says, we're going to substitute amendment number 1, which was the Democrat amendment, and they put in Davy Hyatt's amendment. And so they went to the center of the room, and they copy and pasted my amendment and made it number 1. And I'm like, well, I agree with it. And so right after the vote, they left the well, went right to the cameras, patted themselves on the back for their valiant efforts and how they strengthened constitutional carry. And I just got home. I got in my car and I drove home, kissed my kids and wife. And the next morning, there was a complete peace about it because I got to be part of getting constitutional carry passed in South Carolina. I know I didn't get the cameras and the lights, but it was.
But without you doing that, without you saying, "Hey, I'm going to put this amendment forth. I'm going to do this."
Yeah.
That they would have never came and said, "Okay, this is an amendment." So taking a stand matters.
Yes.
Taking a stand matters.
And that's the history of my term in office is you have to bring the fight. If you don't fight, there's no way forward. You're not going to have less spending, or you're not going to have people standing up to CRT. Pickens County, for example, the Board of Education made a tough decision. They pulled this book stamped out of the classrooms, and then they get sued by the ACLU.
We did a show on that. Yep.
The legal fees so far have costed the school district around $250,000 in legal fees. That's a lot of teacher salaries. That's a lot of teachers. And when I heard about that, I said, you know what? I'm going to write an earmark, $250,000, or however it costs. Because if you have a school district that's going to protect our kids from CRT or whatever it is out there, and they're going to get sued from the ACLU, then I believe the South Carolinians have an obligation, a duty to back their play. And so I'm waiting for the school district to tell me how much it costs, because I think the taxpayers would love to defend our kids and defend our values. So I'm so proud of Pickens. I really am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Thomas, let me say we appreciate you being on our show. Our time's about up. Before we leave, make a statement to the camera, to the people of Pickens and Greenville and Anderson. Ask them for their vote and tell them what you're going to do in the next term.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Thomas Beach. I am the conservative option in this race, born-again Christian family man, Army veteran, member of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. I'm here to defend your rights, put a wall between the federal government and in this state. And you know what? I am very sick and tired of Columbia treating you like their ATM for pork projects. And so being the conservative option, if you want me to continue what I'm doing, send me back. I'll fight. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to New American Movement. And Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. It was a great honor to have you on and to talk about the things we discussed. Guys, please comment, like, share, and follow New American Movement. We can't do this stuff without y'all. We love y'all. We love the views. Keep them coming. Comment anything. Share everything that you like. And we want to keep stuff like this coming. We want to keep candidates, incumbents, people you want to hear from. We want to keep this coming. So Please comment, like, share, and follow. You can also check us out on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Big Patriot Radio. And if you miss it, it's okay because we got an encore at 9 o'clock. So there's 2 shows on Monday at 7 p.m. and then an encore right up at 9 p.m. So if you miss it, it's okay. Check us out again at 9. That's a Big Patriot Radio Mondays. Thank you guys so much, and God bless Pickens County and Greenville and Anderson and everywhere else around South Carolina, because my God, we are going to need him. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in our show today. We appreciate you listening. Each week you keep coming back because we're talking about local politics. If you want to know what's going on in your county, the upstate, South Carolina, you need to tune in. These reps are pouring their hearts out to you. They're telling the good, the bad, the evil, the ugly. So tune in, find out. You can be more informed by listening to this show, and you can make a better choice on how you vote this June. So thank you so much, New American Movement.
Beachforhouse.com, by the way.
Okay, so much. Thank you. Have a great day, and God bless you.